For educational purposes only. The Spirits, Book 1st, Causes. Chapter 1. God. 1. God and Infinity. 2. Proofs of the existence of God. 3. Attributes of the Divinity. 4. Pantheism. God and Infinity. 1. What is God? God is the Supreme Intelligence. First cause of all things. 2. What is to be understood by infinity? That which has neither beginning nor end. The unknown. All that is unknown is infinite. 3. Can it be said that God is infinity? An incomplete definition. Poverty of human speech. Incompetent to define what transcends human intelligence. God is infinite in his perfections. But infinity is an abstraction. To say that God is infinity is to substitute the attribute of a thing for the thing itself, and to define something unknown by reference to some other thing equally unknown. The passage, placed between inverted commas after each question, is the reply made by the communicating spirits, whose very words are given textually. Throughout the whole of this book, the remarks and developments, occasionally added by the author, are printed in smaller type, wherever they might otherwise be confounded with the replies of the spirits themselves. Where the author's remarks occupy an entire chapter, or chapters, the ordinary type is used, as, in that case, no such confusion could occur. Proofs of the existence of God. 4. What proof have we of the existence of God? The axiom, which you apply in all your scientific researches. There is no effect without a cause. Search out the cause of whatever is not the work of man, and reason will furnish the answer to your question. To assure ourselves of the existence of God, we have only to look abroad on the works of creation. The universe exists, therefore, it has a cause. To doubt the existence of God is to doubt that every effect has a cause, and to assume that something can have been made by nothing. 5. What is to be inferred from the intuition of the existence of God, which may be said to be the common property of the human mind, that God exists? For whence could the human mind derive this intuition, if it had no real basis? The inference to be drawn from the fact of this intuition is a corollary of the axiom, there is no effect without a cause. 6. May not our seemingly intuitive sense of the existence of God be the result of education and of acquired ideas? If such were the case, how should this intuitive sense be possessed by your savages? If the intuition of the existence of a supreme being were only the result of education, it would not be universal, and would only exist, like all other acquired knowledge, in the minds of those who had received the special education to which it would be due. 7. Is the first cause of the formation of things to be found in the essential properties of matter? If such were the case, what would be the cause of those properties? There must always be a first cause. To attribute the first formation of things to the essential properties of matter would be to take the effect for the cause, for those properties are themselves an effect, which must have a cause. 8. What is to be thought of the opinion that attributes the first formation of things to a fortuitous combination of matter? In other words, to chance. Another absurdity. Who, that is possessed of common sense, can regard chance as an intelligent agent? And, besides, what is chance? Nothing. The harmony, which regulates the mechanism of the universe, can only result from combinations adopted in view of predetermined ends, and thus, by its very nature, reveals the existence of an intelligent power. To attribute the first formation of things to chance is nonsense, for chance cannot produce the results of intelligence. If chance could be intelligent, it would cease to be chance. 9. What proof have we that the first cause of all things is a supreme intelligence, superior to all other intelligences? You have a proverb which says, "The workman is known by his work." Look around you, and, from the quality of the work, infer that of the workman. We judge of the power of an intelligence by its works, as no human being could create that which is produced by nature. It is evident that the first cause must be an intelligence superior to man. Whatever may be the prodigies accomplished by human intelligence, that intelligence itself must have a cause, and, the greater the results achieved by it, the greater must be the cause, of which it is the effect. It is this supreme intelligence that is the first cause of all things, whatever the name by which mankind may designate it. Attributes of the Divinity. 10. Can man comprehend the essential nature of God? No. He lacks the sense required for comprehending it. 11. Will man ever become able to comprehend the mystery of the divinity, when his mind shall no longer be obscured by matter, and when, by his perfection, he shall have brought himself nearer to God, he will see and comprehend him? The inferiority of the human faculties renders it impossible for man to comprehend the essential nature of God. In the infancy of the race, man often confounds the Creator with the creature, and attributes to the former the imperfections of the latter. But, in proportion his moral sense becomes developed, man's thought penetrates more deeply into the nature of things, and he is able to form to himself the juster and more rational idea of the divine being, although his idea of that being must always be imperfect and incomplete. 12. If we cannot comprehend the essential nature of God, can we have an idea of some of his perfections? Yes, of some of them. Man comprehends them better, in proportion as he raises himself above matter. He obtains glimpses of them through the exercise of his intelligence. 13. When we say that God is eternal, infinite, unchangeable, immaterial, unique, all-powerful, sovereignty just and good, have we not a complete idea of his attributes? Yes, judging from your point of view, because you think that you sum up everything in those terms. But you must understand that there are things which transcend the intelligence of the most intelligent man, and for which your language, limited to your ideas and sensations, has no expressions. Your reason tells you that God must possess those perfections in the supreme degree. For, if one of them were lacking, or were not possessed by him in an infinite degree, he would not be superior to all, and consequently, would not be God. In order to be above all things, God must undergo no vicissitudes. He must have none of the imperfections of which the imagination can conceive. God is eternal. If he had had a beginning, he must either have sprung from nothing, or have been created by some being anterior to himself. It is thus, step by step, we arrive at the idea of infinity and eternity. God is unchangeable. If he was subject to change, the laws which rule the universe would have no stability. God is immaterial, that is to say, that his nature differs from everything that we call matter, or otherwise, he would not be unchangeable, for he would be subject to the transformations of matter. God is unique. If there were several gods, there would be neither unity of plan, nor unity of power. In the ordaining of the universe, God is all-powerful, because he is unique. If he did not possess sovereign power, there would be something more powerful, or no less powerful, than himself. He would not have created all things, and those which he had not created would be the work of another God. God is sovereignty just and good. The providential wisdom of the divine laws is revealed as clearly in the smallest things as in the greatest, and this wisdom renders it impossible to doubt either his justice or his goodness. Pantheism. 14. Is God the being distinct from the universe, or is he, according to the opinion of some, the result of all the forces and intelligences of the universe? If the latter were the case, God would not be God, for he would be effect, and not cause. He cannot be both cause and effect. God exists. You cannot doubt his existence, and that is one essential point. Do not seek to go beyond it. Do not lose yourselves in a labyrinth, which, for you, is without an issue. Such inquiries would not make you better. They would rather tend to add to your pride, by causing you to imagine that you knew something, while, in reality, you would know nothing. Put aside systems. You have things enough to think about that concern you much more nearly. Beginning with yourselves, study your own imperfections, that you may get rid of them. This will be far more useful to you than the vain attempt to penetrate the impenetrable. 15. What is to be thought of the opinion according to which all natural bodies, all the beings, all the globes of the universe, are parts of the divinity, and constitute in their totality the divinity itself? In other words, the pantheistic theory. Man, not being able to make himself God, would fain make himself out to be, at least, a part of God. 16. Those who hold this theory profess to find in it the demonstration of some of the attributes of God. The worlds of the universe being infinitely numerous, God is thus seen to be infinite. Vacuum, or nothingness, being nowhere, God is everywhere. God being everywhere, since everything is an integral part of God, he is thus seen to be the intelligent cause of all the phenomena of the universe. What can we oppose to this argument? The dictates of reason. Reflect on the assumption in question, and you will have no difficulty in detecting its absurdity. The pantheistic theory makes of God a material being, who, though endowed with a supreme intelligence, would only be on a larger scale, what we are on a smaller one. But, as matter is incessantly undergoing transformation, God, if this theory were true, would have no stability. He would be subject to all the vicissitudes, and even to all the needs, of humanity. He would lack one of the essential attributes of the divinity, unchangeableness. The properties of matter cannot be attributed to God, without degrading our idea of the divinity, and all the subtleties of sophistry fail to solve the problem of his essential nature. We do not know what God is, but we know that it is impossible that he should not be, and the theory just stated is in contradiction with his most essential attributes. It confounds the Creator with the creation, precisely as though we should consider an ingenious machine to be an integral portion of the mechanic who invented it. The intelligence of God is revealed in his works, as is that of a painter in his picture. But the works of God are no more God himself than the picture is the artist who conceived and painted it. Chapter 2. General elements of the universe. 1. Knowledge of the first principles of things. 2. Spirit and matter. 3. Properties of matter. 4. Universal space. Knowledge of the first principles of things. 17. Is it given to mankind to know the first principle of things? No, there are things that cannot be understood by man in this world. 18. Will man ever be able to penetrate the mystery of things now hidden from him? The veil will be raised for him in proportion as he accomplishes his purification. But, in order to understand certain things, he would need faculties which he does not yet possess. 19. Cannot man, through scientific investigation, penetrate some of the secrets of nature? The faculty of scientific research has been given to him as a means by which he may advance in every direction, but he cannot overstep the limits of his present possibilities. The farther man advances in the study of the mysteries around him, the greater should be his admiration of the power and wisdom of the Creator. But, partly through pride, partly through weakness, his intellect itself often renders him the sport of illusion. He heaps systems upon systems, and every day shows him how many errors he has mistaken for truths, how many truths he has repelled as errors. All this should be a lesson for his pride. 20. Is man permitted to receive communications of a higher order in regard to matters which, not being within the scope of his senses, but beyond the pale of scientific investigation? Yes, when God judges such revelations to be useful, he reveals to man what science is incompetent to teach him. It is through communications of this higher order that man is enabled, within certain limits, to obtain a knowledge of his past and of his future destiny. Spirit and matter. 21. Has matter existed from all eternity, like God? Or has it been created at some definite period of time? God only knows. There is, nevertheless, one point which your reason should suffice to show you that God, the prototype of love and beneficence, can never have been inactive. However far off in the past you may imagine the beginning of his action, can you suppose him to have been for a single moment inactive? 22. Matter is generally defined as being that which has extension, impression upon our senses, that which can make an impression upon our senses, that which possesses impenetrability. Are these definitions correct? From your point of view, they are correct, because you can only define in accordance with what you know. But matter exists in states which are unknown to you. It may be, for instance, so ethereal and subtle as to make no impression upon your senses, and yet it is still matter, although it would not be such for you. What definition can you give of matter? Matter is the element which enchains spirit, the instrument which serves it, and upon which, at the same time, it exerts its action. From this point of view, it may be said that matter is the agent, the intermediary, through which, and upon which, spirit acts. 23. What is spirit? The intelligent principle of the universe. What is the essential nature of spirit? It is not possible to explain the nature of spirit in your language. For you, it is not a thing, because it is not palpable. But for us, it is a thing. 24. Is spirit synonymous with intelligence. Intelligence is an essential attribute of spirit, but both merge in a unitary principle, so that, for you, they may be said to be the same thing. 25. Is spirit independent of matter, or is it only one of the properties of matter? As colors are a property of light, and as sound is a property of the air, spirit and matter are distinct from one another. But the union of spirit and matter is necessary to give intelligent activity to matter. Is this union equally necessary to the manifestation of spirit? We refer, in this question, to the principle of intelligence, abstractly considered, without reference to the individualities designated by that term. It is necessary for you, because you are not organized, for perceiving spirit, apart from matter. Your senses are not formed for that order of perception. 26. Can spirit be conceived of without matter, and matter without spirit? Undoubtedly, as objects of thought. 27. There are, then, two general elements of the universe, matter and spirit. Yes, and above them both is God, the Creator, parent of all things. These three elements are the principle of all that exists, the universal Trinity. But to the material element must be added the universal fluid, which plays the part of intermediary between spirit and matter, the nature of the latter being too gross for spirit to be able to act directly upon it. Although, from another point of view, this fluid may be classed as forming part of the material element, it is, nevertheless, distinguished from that element by certain special properties of its own. If it could be classed simply and absolutely as matter, there would be no reason why spirit also should not be classed as matter. It is intermediary between spirit and matter. It is fluid, just as matter is matter, and is susceptible of being made, through its innumerable combinations with matter, under the directing action of spirit, to produce the infinite variety of things, of which you know as yet but a very small portion. This universal, primitive, or elementary fluid, being the agent employed by spirit in acting upon matter, is the principle without which matter would remain forever in a state of division, and would never acquire the properties given to it by the state of ponderability. Is this fluid what we designate by the name of electricity? We have said that it is susceptible of innumerable combinations. What you call the electric fluid, the magnetic fluid, etc., are modifications of the universal fluid, which, properly speaking, is only matter, of a more perfect and more subtle kind, and that may be considered as having an independent existence of its own. 28. Since spirit itself is something, would it not be more correct and clearer to designate these two general elements by the terms inert matter and intelligent matter? Questions of words are of little importance for us. It is for you to formulate your definitions in such a manner as to make yourselves intelligible to one another. Your disputes almost always arise from the want of a common agreement in the use of the words you employ, owing to the incompleteness of your language, in regard to all that does not strike your senses. One fact, patent to all observers, dominates all our hypotheses. We see matter, which is not intelligent. We see the action of an intelligent principle, independent of matter. The origin and connection of these two things are unknown to us. Whether they have, or have not, a common source, and points of contact, preordained in the nature of things. Whether intelligence has an independent existence of its own, or is only a property, or an effect, or even whether it is, as some assume it to be, an emanation of the divinity. The points about which we know nothing, matter and intelligence, appear to us to be distinct, and we therefore speak of them as being two constituent elements of the universe. We see, above these, a higher intelligence, which governs all things, and is distinguished from them all by essential attributes peculiar to itself. It is this supreme intelligence that we call God. Properties of matter. 29. Is density an essential attribute of matter? Yes, of matter, as understood by you, but not of matter, considered as the universal fluid. The ethereal and subtle matter, which forms this fluid, is imponderable for you, and yet, it is none the less the principle of your ponderable matter. Density is a relative property, beyond the sphere of attraction, of the various globes of the universe. There is no such thing as weight, just as there is neither up nor down. 30. Is matter formed of one element, or of several elements, of one primitive element? The bodies, which you regard as simple, are not really elementary. They are transformations of the primitive matter. 31. Whence come the different properties of matter? From the modifications undergone by the elementary molecules, as the result of their union, and of the action of certain conditions. 32. According to this view of the subject, savors, odors, colors, sounds, the poisonous, or salutary qualities of bodies, are only the result of modifications, of one and the same primitive substance. Yes, undoubtedly, and that only exist, in virtue of the disposition of the organs, destined to perceive them. This principle is proved by the fact that the qualities of bodies are not perceived by all persons in the same manner. The same thing appears agreeable to the taste of one person, and disagreeable to that of another. What appears blue to one person, appears red to another. That which is a poison for some, is wholesome for others. 33. Is the same elementary matter susceptible of undergoing all possible modifications, and of acquiring all possible qualities? Yes, and it is this fact which is implied in the saying that everything is in everything. Oxygen, hydrogen, azote, carbon, and all the other bodies, which we regard as simple, are only modifications of one primitive substance. But the impossibility, in which we have hitherto found ourselves, of arriving at this primitive matter, otherwise than as an intellectual deduction, causes these bodies to appear to us to be really elementary, and we may, therefore, without impropriety, continue for the present to regard them as such. Does not this theory appear to bear out the opinion of those who admit only two essential properties in matter, force and movement, and who regard all the other properties of matter as being merely secondary effects of these, varying according to the intensity of the force and the direction of the movement? That opinion is correct, but you must also add, according to the mode of molecular arrangement, as you see exemplified, for instance, in an opaque body that may become transparent, and vice versa. 34. Have the molecules of matter a determinate form? Those molecules undoubtedly have a form, but one which is not appreciable by your organs. Is that form constant, or variable? Constant for the primitive elementary molecules, but variable for the secondary molecules, which are themselves only agglomerations of the primary ones. For what you term a molecule is still very far from being the elementary molecule. Universal space. 35. Is universal space infinite, or limited? Infinite. Suppose the existence of boundaries. What would there be beyond them? This consideration confounds human reason, and nevertheless, your reason itself tells you that it cannot be otherwise. It is thus with the idea of infinity. Under whatever aspect you consider it, the idea of infinity cannot be comprehended in your narrow sphere. If we imagine a limit to space, no matter how far off our thought may place this limit, our reason tells us that there must still be something beyond it, and so on, step by step, until we arrive at the idea of infinity. For the something beyond, the existence of which is recognized by our thought as necessity, were it only an absolute void, would still be space. 36. Does an absolute void exist in any part of space? No, there is no void. What appears like a void to you is occupied by matter, in a state in which it escapes the action of your senses and of your instruments. Note, this principle explains a phenomenon familiar to all magnetizers: the imparting to any given substance, to water, for example, of very different qualities, such as specific flavors, or even the active qualities of other substances. As there is but one primitive element, and as the properties of different bodies are only modifications of this element, it follows that the substance of the most inoffensive and of the most deleterious bodies is absolutely the same. Thus water, which is formed of one equivalent of oxygen and two equivalents of hydrogen, becomes corrosive. If we double the proportion of oxygen, an analogous transformation may be produced through the action of animal magnetism, directed by the human will.